She died on that intersection. Anna felt her ribs crack, tasted blood flooding her mouth, heard her own heartbeat stop. The paramedics pronounced her dead at the scene, but then she woke up in a hospital bed without a single scratch, and the stranger who pulled her from the wreckage had eyes that didn't belong in the same face. One burning gold, one ash gray. He saved her life. Then he whispered the words that changed everything. You have 10 days. 10 days before what? Before her impossible. Resurrection wears off? Before the people who wanted her dead come back to finish the job? Raziel won't say, but Anna can feel him now, like he's living inside her chest, and the connection between them grows stronger with every passing hour. He was supposed to kill her. Those were his orders. Instead, he marked her as his own, binding her to a world of angels and demons and ancient contracts written in blood. Now they're both running out of time, and the choice ahead is impossible. Accept a bond that will steal her humanity forever, or die as the person she used to be. But here's what Anna doesn't know yet. Here's the truth Raziel is too terrified to tell her. Saving her wasn't mercy. It was the cruelest thing he's ever done. Because in 10 days, when her transformation completes, she'll finally understand what he really is. And by then, it will be far too late to run. The first thing Ana Luisa noticed when she opened her eyes wasn't the sterile white ceiling of the hospital room. It wasn't the rhythmic beeping of monitors or the antiseptic smell she'd grown so familiar with during her mother's final months. It was the absence of pain. Complete, impossible absence. She'd felt the impact. The screech of metal tearing through metal, glass exploding inward like 1,000 tiny knives, her body jerking violently against the seatbelt. She'd felt her ribs crack, tasted blood flooding her mouth, heard her own scream cut short as the dashboard crushed her chest. She'd felt herself dying. And now, nothing. Not even a bruise. Her hands trembled as she lifted them, turned them over. Smooth skin. No lacerations. No embedded glass. The fluorescent lights above flickered once, twice, and for a split second she could have sworn she saw something else reflected in the window beside her bed. Not her own pale face, but someone standing in the corner, watching. When she blinked, the corner was empty. Just shadows. Just her exhausted mind playing tricks. 6 months of 12-hour night. Shifts could do that. 6 months of coming home to an empty apartment that still smelled like her mother's lavender lotion. 6 months of existing in that gray space between living and just not being dead yet. A knock on the door made her flinch. The doctor entered, clipboard in hand, and his expression was the one she'd seen countless times in the ICU. The carefully neutral mask that meant something was very, very wrong. But instead of delivering bad news, he simply stared at her chart, then at her, then back at the chart. Miss Ferreira, I need you to understand that what I'm about to say doesn't make medical sense. His voice was tight, professional but strained. You were pronounced dead at the scene. The paramedics called it. There was no pulse, no respiratory effort, massive internal trauma. They brought you in as a formality, for the family to say goodbye. He paused, and she watched his throat work as he swallowed. When they wheeled you into the ER, you opened your eyes, sat up, asked where you were. We've run every test available, CT scans, MRI, blood work. You don't have a scratch on you. Not one. The words should have brought relief, gratitude, joy. Instead, cold dread seeped through her veins like ice water, because she remembered, not the accident itself, but the moment after. The moment between. A voice in the darkness, low and rough, speaking words in a language she'd never heard, but somehow understood. Not yet. Not her. And then heat. Searing. Impossible. Heat spreading from her chest outward, burning away the pain. Burning away the death that had already claimed her. Burning something into her that didn't belong. There was a witness. The doctor continued, glancing at his notes. He gave a statement to the police. Said he pulled you from the wreckage immediately after impact. Maybe that's why. He trailed off, not believing his own explanation. Neither did she. Because the truck had T-boned her driver's side door at 45 miles per hour. No one could have reached her immediately. The door would have been crushed shut. She would have been crushed with it. Where is he? The question came out hoarse. The witness, waiting outside, been here since they brought you in, refused to leave until he knew you were okay. The doctor's expression shifted slightly. Uncomfortable. Strange guy. Doesn't talk much. Just watches. Her heart rate spiked, and the monitor beside her bed betrayed her with its accelerated beeping. The doctor frowned. At it, but she waved him off. I'm fine, just need a minute. Can you send him in? She shouldn't want to see him. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong, that dead people didn't just wake up unharmed, that witnesses didn't sit vigil for strangers. But something else pulled at her. Something underneath her skin, in her chest, right where the burning had started. A thread she couldn't see but could feel, taut and humming, stretching from her body toward the door, toward whoever was on the other side. The doctor hesitated, then nodded and left. Anna stared at her hands again. They looked normal, felt normal, but when she concentrated, really focused, she could feel something beneath the surface, like static electricity, but deeper, alive, waiting. The door opened, and she understood with sudden, terrible clarity that nothing would ever be normal again. He was tall. That was her first concrete thought. Tall enough that he had to duck slightly through the doorframe. Broad-shouldered under a dark hoodie pulled up despite the hospital's warmth. He kept his hands in his pockets, didn't meet her eyes immediately, and when he finally did, she forgot how to breathe. One eye was amber, pure, liquid gold, catching the light like something precious and ancient. The other was gray, not blue-gray or hazel-gray, but the color of storm clouds, of ash, of something burned and never fully extinguished. They didn't belong in the same face, shouldn't exist in the same skull, and yet they tracked her with identical intensity, identical wariness, identical something she couldn't name. You're awake. His voice matched the one from her memory. Low, rough, like gravel underfoot. He stayed near the door, didn't come closer, and she realized he was deliberately keeping distance. Good. You pulled me out. Not a question. A test. His jaw tightened. In the fluorescent lighting, she saw it clearly now. Thin silver lines tracing beneath his skin, visible for just a moment before fading. Like veins, but wrong. Too bright. Too deliberate. Yes. How? The monitor beside her beeped faster. The thread between them pulled tighter, and she pressed her hand against her sternum trying to ease the pressure. The doctor said I was dead. He said the door was crushed. You weren't dead. The words came quickly. Too quickly. A lie dressed up as certainty. Just unconscious, and I'm stronger than I look. Another lie. She'd spent 6 years as an ER and ICU nurse. She knew dead. Had held enough hands through that final transition, had called enough times of death, had closed enough eyes that wouldn't open again. She'd been dead, and he'd brought her back. The how didn't matter as much as the why, and the why terrified her more than the impossible resurrection. What's your name? Her voice cracked on the question. He paused. The silence stretched too long, and she watched something flicker across his features. A war happening behind those mismatched eyes. Finally, Raziel. The name settled over her like a weight. Old. Biblical. Wrong for someone who looked maybe 30, standing in a fluorescent-lit hospital room in Scrubs-friendly territory. Wrong for someone whose shadow seemed slightly too dark, too solid, like it had substance beyond the absence of light. I'm Anna. She didn't know why she offered it. didn't know why it felt important that he know. I know. And there it was. Confirmation that this wasn't random, wasn't chance, wasn't a good Samaritan happening upon an accident. He'd known who she was before the impact, maybe before today. The thread between them thrummed, and she watched his hand move to his own chest, mirroring her gesture, feeling the same pull, the same impossible connection. Why do I feel you? The question escaped before she could stop it. Desperate, raw, right here, like you're inside my chest, like you're... She couldn't finish, didn't have words for something that shouldn't exist. His expression shattered. Just for a second, the careful blankness cracked and she saw it. Agony, ancient, crushing agony, and something worse. Regret. You shouldn't. That wasn't supposed to happen. He took a step back, hand on the door handle. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Wait. She tried to sit up, and her body obeyed effortlessly. Too effortlessly. She should be weak, should be trembling, should be anything but steady after dying and undying. You saved me. Why are you apologizing? Raziel looked at her. Then, really looked at her. And she saw the answer in those impossible eyes before he spoke it. Because sometimes saving someone is the cruelest thing you can do. The amber eye caught the light, reflecting gold. The gray one absorbed it, reflecting nothing. You have 10 days. Stay inside. Don't go anywhere alone. And whatever you do, his voice dropped to barely a whisper. Don't trust anyone who says they're here to protect you. He left before she could respond. The door clicked shut with terrible finality, and Anna sat alone in the hospital room, hand pressed against her chest, feeling the thread pull taut as he walked away. Feeling, for the first time since her mother died, something other than numb emptiness. She felt terrified. She felt alive. And she had no idea that both of those things were about to get her killed. Anna was discharged 3 hours later with a stack of papers she didn't read and a prescription for anxiety medication she wouldn't fill. The hospital staff watched her leave with expressions caught between relief and unease. Like she was a medical anomaly they were grateful to remove from their records. She called an Uber because her car was totaled, crumpled metal in an impound lot somewhere, and tried not to think about how she should be in a morgue instead of scrolling through her phone. The driver didn't speak, which suited her fine. She pressed her forehead against the cool window and watched the city blur past, counting down from 10 in her head. 10 days. He'd said 10 days. 10 days until what? Until the impossible resurrection wore off, and she dropped dead properly this time? Until whatever had created that burning thread between them snapped? She didn't know, and the not knowing carved a hollow space in her chest that had nothing to do with physical injury. Her apartment was exactly as she'd left it that morning. Coffee mug in the sink, still half full and growing mold. Scrubs draped over the bathroom door. Her mother's. Cardigan on the couch, the one she couldn't bring herself to wash because it still smelled faintly of lavender and sickness, and the woman who'd raised her alone. Anna dropped her keys on the counter and stood in the center of her living room, feeling the silence press against her eardrums. She'd grown accustomed to silence over the past 6 months, had learned to exist in it, to let it fill the spaces her mother used to occupy. But this silence was different. Waiting, watchful. The thread in her chest pulled, sharp and sudden, like a fishhook yanking against her sternum. She gasped, hand flying to her ribs, and felt it distinctly now. Not metaphorical, not imagined. A genuine connection running from her body outward, stretching taut through walls and distance toward something she couldn't see but knew absolutely was Raziel. And through it, bleeding across the connection like watercolor on wet paper, came emotion that wasn't hers. Guilt. Crushing. Suffocating guilt. And beneath it, sharper, more dangerous, hunger. Anna stumbled to the couch and sat hard, breathing through her mouth. This wasn't possible. Emotions didn't transfer through invisible threads. People didn't come back from death. Strangers didn't save you and then apologize for it. But her ribs remembered breaking. Her lungs remembered drowning in her own blood. Her ears remembered the silence after her heart stopped. And now she could feel someone else's guilt like it was her own. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and did what any rational person would do when confronted with the supernatural. She Googled it. Emotional connection to stranger. Feeling someone else's emotions. Thread between two people. The results were useless. Soulmate articles, psychology papers about empathy, New Age blogs about energetic chords. Nothing that explained this. Nothing that felt right. She modified her search. Raziel, the name he'd given her, old and strange and weighted. The results made her blood run. Cold. Raziel, Archangel of Mysteries, Keeper of Secrets. The angel who stood at the veil between life and death. She scrolled through Wikipedia entries and religious texts and occult websites, and with each sentence, the wrongness of the situation calcified into something sharper. He'd told her his name like it was nothing, like she wouldn't look it up, like he wanted her to know exactly what he was claiming to be. Except angels didn't exist. And even if they did, they didn't walk around in hoodies pulling people from car wrecks. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She stared at it for 3 long rings before answering. Hello? You looked me up. Raziel's voice, rough and immediate. Not a question. Somehow he knew. Good. You should know what you're dealing with. I'm dealing with someone who thinks he's an angel. She tried to sound skeptical, dismissive, but her voice came out thin. Or someone with a god complex and a flair for the dramatic. I'm not an angel. The correction was sharp, almost angry. Angels are pure, unified. I'm something else. Something that shouldn't exist. A pause, and through the thread she felt it again. That crushing guilt, but now threaded with something darker. Self-loathing so profound it made her chest ache. You felt it, didn't you? The connection. She should deny it. Should hang up and block the number and chalk this entire day up to trauma-induced delusion. Instead, what did you do to me? I saved your life, and in doing so, I marked you. His voice dropped lower, and she heard background noise shifting. He was moving, walking somewhere with purpose. It wasn't intentional. When I healed you, when I pulled you back from death, I had to use both sides, angel and demon, light and dark. The combination creates a bond. You can feel what I feel, and I can feel you. The casual way he said angel and demon, like those were normal things to be. Like hybrid supernatural entities just walked around saving people. Made her laugh, high and slightly unhinged. This is insane. You're insane. I'm insane for even listening to this. You're not insane. He sounded tired suddenly. Ancient tired, like he'd had this conversation before across decades or centuries. You're a nurse. You've seen people die. You know what death looks like, what it feels like. You were dead, Anna, and now you're not. And you can feel me inside your chest like a second heartbeat. Tell me I'm wrong. She couldn't. She pressed her hand over her key, sternum, and felt it. The pull. The foreign emotions bleeding through. The absolute certainty that wherever Raziel was right now, she could point to him like a compass to magnetic north. Why me? The question came out broken. Why did you save me specifically? The silence stretched so long she thought he'd hung up. Then, I wasn't supposed to save you at all. His voice was barely audible. I was supposed to do the opposite. The floor dropped out from under her. The thread went ice cold, and through it flooded his emotion raw and unfiltered. Horror at his own words, desperation, and underneath everything else, that terrible gnawing hunger that made her skin crawl. What does that mean? It means someone wants you dead. Someone powerful. Someone who gave me explicit orders to make sure you didn't survive the week. She heard him exhale, shaky and controlled. The accident wasn't an accident. The truck driver was compelled. Supernatural manipulation. You were supposed to die at that intersection, and I was supposed to let it happen. But when I saw you... Another pause. I couldn't. Anna's apartment spun slightly. She gripped the couch cushion, felt her nails dig into cheap fabric. Why would anyone want me dead? I'm nobody. I'm a nurse with student debt and a dead mother. I don't know any secrets. I don't have anything worth killing for. You have a bloodline. Raziel's voice was gentle now, almost pitying. Your grandmother was a sensitive. Your great-grandmother before her. Women who could sense the supernatural, who acted as beacons whether they wanted to or not. You've felt it your whole life, haven't you? Known when patients were going to die. Sensed things you couldn't explain. Avoided certain places because they felt wrong. She had. God help her, she had. She'd always attributed it to intuition, to pattern recognition from years of medical training. But there were moments, standing in certain hospital rooms and feeling cold spots that had nothing to do with air conditioning. Knowing, absolutely knowing, that the man in bed 12 wouldn't make it through the night despite stable vitals. Avoiding the alley behind her building because something about it made her skin crawl. That doesn't explain why I need to die. Because your ability is waking up. The bond I created accelerated it. In 10 days, maybe less, you'll be fully sensitive. You'll see things. Celestial beings. Infernal entities. The hidden world bleeding through into yours. And when that happens, you become a liability. A beacon that could expose those of us who exist in shadow. His voice hardened. Whoever ordered your death will realize I failed. Will send someone else. And next time, I won't be there to stop it. The thread yanked violently, and Anna doubled over with sudden searing pain. Not her pain. His. Like someone had driven a spike through his chest, white-hot and agonizing. She heard him grunt through the phone, heard something crash in the background. What's happening? She was on her feet without deciding to stand, pacing toward the door like she could somehow reach him. Raziel, what's wrong? Using angelic power to heal you. His words came through gritted teeth. It alerted them, the celestial faction. They're hunting me now, too. Another spike of pain through the bond, and she cried out in sympathy. I need to go. Stay inside. Lock your doors. And Anna? His voice softened, became almost tender. I'm sorry. For all of it. You deserved a normal life. Wait, don't. The line went dead. The thread went taut, stretching impossibly far, and she felt him moving, running, fighting. The emotions that bled through were primal now. Rage, pain, desperate survival instinct. And underneath it all, that hunger, growing stronger, more insistent. She realized with dawning horror what it was. Not hunger for food or power. Hunger for her, to complete whatever bond he'd started. To mark her fully and irrevocably as his. Anna locked the door with trembling hands and backed away from it, staring at the cheap wood like it could protect her from angels and demons and impossible men with mismatched eyes. 10 days, he'd said. She had 10 days before her life ended one way or another. Before she became something else. Before the choice between death and damnation became unavoidable. She sank to the floor, back against the couch, and pressed both hands over her chest. Through the thread, she felt Raziel's pain spike one final time before, dulling to a manageable ache. Felt his relief. Felt his determination. And beneath it all, whispering like poison, felt his certainty that saving her had been both the best and worst thing he'd ever done. She had 10 days, and she had no idea if that was enough time to understand what she was becoming, or just enough time to regret surviving at all. Anna didn't sleep. She tried, curled on her side in bed with every light in the apartment blazing. But every time she closed her eyes, the thread pulled. Not painfully, but insistently, like a dog tugging its leash toward home. Raziel was out there somewhere, close enough that she could feel his exhaustion bleeding through the bond, and the wrongness of knowing a stranger's emotional state kept her wired and vigilant until dawn. She called in sick to work, first time in 6 months, and her supervisor's concern came through the phone with uncomfortable clarity. "Anna, you never call in sick. Are you okay?" "No," she wanted to say. "I died. Yesterday, and someone brought me back, and now I can feel him like he's living under my skin. Instead, just need a day. I'll be back tomorrow." Another lie. She had no idea if she'd ever go back. By 8 in the morning, her apartment felt like a cage. The walls pressed inward, the silence screamed, and the thread wouldn't stop pulling. Southeast. He was southeast of her, maybe 2 miles, maybe less. The certainty of it terrified her almost as much as the compulsion to follow it. She lasted until 9:30 before grabbing her jacket and breaking Raziel's explicit instruction to stay inside. The autumn air bit cold against her face, sharp enough to feel real. Cars passed with normal frequency. People walked dogs and carried coffee cups, and existed in their oblivious human bubbles. And Anna felt the distance between her and them like a chasm. She'd crossed some invisible line yesterday, stopped being fully human the moment Raziel's hands pulled her back from death. The thought should have devastated her. Instead, it felt almost like relief, like she'd been waiting her whole life for permission to acknowledge that she'd never quite fit. The thread led her to a church. Of course it did. Some cosmic joke, leading her to consecrated ground when everything about this situation screamed unholy. St. Catherine's, old stone and stained glass, the kind of building that had weathered a century of prayers and confessions, and probably more than a few exorcisms. The heavy wooden doors were unlocked. Inside, the air smelled of incense and dust, and something underneath that made her sinuses burn. Ozone, sharp and chemical, like the aftermath of lightning. Raziel sat in the last pew, hood pulled low, head bowed like he was praying. He wasn't. She knew without seeing his face that he was simply existing in the closest thing to sanctuary his kind could find. "You didn't stay inside." His voice echoed in the empty space, rough with exhaustion. "Why doesn't that surprise me? You can feel me coming." Not a question. She walked down the center aisle, footsteps too loud on old wood. "Through the bond, you knew I'd follow. I hoped you wouldn't." He finally looked up, and the sight of him in daylight filtering through stained glass stole her breath. The amber eye caught reds and golds from the windows, glowing almost molten. The gray eye remained flat, lightless, like it absorbed instead of reflected. And beneath his skin, those silver lines traced visible patterns. Veins that weren't veins, mapping something inhuman beneath human flesh. But yes, I felt you leave. Felt you walking toward me like you were tethered. Because I am. She stopped 3 pews away, maintaining distance. Up close, she could see the damage. Bruises darkening his jaw, split knuckles, a burn across his collarbone that looked like a handprint, the edges blistered and weeping. What happened to you? Consequences. He flexed his fingers, winced. Celestial beings don't appreciate Nephilim using angelic power. They consider it theft, blasphemy. I healed you with light I had no right to touch, and they sent a retrieval squad to remind me of my place. His smile was bitter. 3 of them. I put 2 in the ground. The 3rd got away. Nephilim. The word tasted strange, biblical, wrong for the modern world of cell phones and coffee shops. That's what you are. Half angel, half demon. Abomination is the technical term. He stood slowly, like movement hurt, and she watched. The way his shadow fell wrong. Too dark, too solid, edges that didn't quite match his body. Children of fallen angels and human women. We're not supposed to exist. Both heaven and hell consider us cosmic mistakes that need correcting. The fact that I'm still breathing after 400 years is more luck than skill. 400 years. The number settled over her like a weight. She'd suspected he was old, but hearing it confirmed made her throat tight. How many people have you saved in 400 years? His expression shuddered. That's not the question you want to ask. How many have you killed? The real question. The one that had kept her awake with his guilt, bleeding through the bond. Raziel moved then, closing the distance between them with predator grace. He stopped close enough that she could feel heat radiating off his skin, could smell something on him that wasn't quite human. Smoke and copper, and underneath it, something sweet, like burnt sugar. 73. His voice was barely audible. That I remember clearly. Probably more that I've forgotten. Humans mostly, some supernatural. All of them because I was ordered to, because I was too weak to refuse, because the demon half of me enjoyed it. The amber eye blazed brighter. The gray one stayed dead. That's what you're bonded to, Anna. A killer who spent centuries following orders from beings who consider morality optional. She should step back, should run, should feel revulsion or fear or any normal human reaction to standing 3 feet from a confessed mass murderer. Instead, through the bond, she felt his self-hatred so profoundly it made her chest ache. Felt his desperation for her to see him as the monster he believed himself to be. Felt, underneath everything, his bone-deep exhaustion at existing. Why did you save me? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. If you're so good at following orders, why break them for me? Because I'm tired. The confession cracked out of him like, breaking glass? Tired of killing. Tired of watching humans live and die while I just continue. Tired of being pulled between two natures that want opposite things. When I saw you in that car, I felt it. Your life. So bright and determined despite everything you've lost. Despite the debts and the grief and the loneliness. You were still trying. Still showing up to save other people's lives even when your own felt pointless. He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and touched her, cheek with surprising gentleness. His skin burned fever-hot. I couldn't let that light go out. Not when I'm made of nothing but darkness. The bond flared white-hot between them, and suddenly she wasn't just feeling his emotions. She was seeing them. Flashes of memory not her own. A woman with dark hair and kind eyes, singing in a language Anna didn't recognize. The same woman screaming as light poured from the sky and burned her to ash. A child, no more than 5, watching his mother die. Because his existence was sin. Centuries of isolation. Of following orders because orders meant purpose. And purpose meant not having to think about what he was. And then yesterday, watching her car crumple, feeling the pull toward her, inexplicable and undeniable, making a choice for the first time in decades, choosing her. Anna gasped, and the visions cut off. Raziel jerked his hand back like she'd burned him, those mismatched eyes wide with something close to panic. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to push that through. The bond is still new, still raw. I can't always control what bleeds across. Your mother. Her voice shook. They killed her for having you. Angels don't tolerate corruption of their bloodline. He stepped back, putting distance between them again. She knew what would happen. Fell in love anyway. Paid the price. His jaw clenched. I've been paying it ever since. The burn on his collarbone was weeping more now. The handprint edges glowing faintly gold. Anna's nurse. Instincts overrode her common sense. That needs treatment. It's infected. It's not infected. It's consecrated. He glanced down at it with clinical detachment. Angelic fire doesn't heal normally. It's meant to burn until there's nothing left. I'm just stubborn enough to not give it the satisfaction. Let me look at it. She moved before he could protest, reaching for the collar of his shirt. The moment her fingers touched his skin, the bond exploded. Not painfully, but overwhelming, like a dam breaking. His hunger roared through the connection, primal and consuming, and she felt her body respond involuntarily. Heat pooling low in her stomach, her pulse quickening, an ache that had nothing to do with injury and everything to do with proximity. Raziel caught her wrist, grip iron tight, but careful. "Don't." The word came out strangled. The bond is trying to complete itself. Every time we touch, it gets stronger, harder to resist. If we're not careful, if I don't maintain control, I'll mark you fully. And once that happens, there's no going back. What does that mean? Marking me fully? She should pull away. His hand around her wrist burned like fever, but she didn't move. It means you become mine in every way that matters. Body, soul, life force. It means other supernatural entities can't touch you without permission. It means you'll feel everything I feel, always, no distance limitations. It means your human life ends and something else begins. His thumb traced the inside of her wrist. Whether conscious or not, she couldn't tell. It means I tie you to a monster for whatever remains of your mortal life, and even death won't break the bond. And if you don't mark me, if we resist, she already knew the answer, felt it hovering in his guilt. Then whoever wants you dead will eventually succeed, and I'll have saved you for nothing. He released her wrist like it hurt to maintain contact. 10 days, Anna. You have 10 days before your sensitivity fully manifests. Before you become a beacon, every celestial and infernal entity can track. Before hiding becomes impossible. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. 10 days to decide if life as a marked woman bonded to an abomination is better than death as yourself. The church felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. Anna looked at Raziel, really looked at him, and saw the war happening behind those impossible eyes. Saw the angel that wanted to protect her, and the demon that wanted to claim her, and the human soul trapped between them that just wanted rest. What do you want? The question surprised them both. Forget heaven and hell and orders and consequences. What do you want? He stared at her for a long moment, and through the bond, she felt something crack open. Something vulnerable and true. I want to keep you safe. I want to stop being alone. I want one good thing in 400 years of darkness. His voice broke on the last word. But what I want doesn't matter. It never has. Anna reached up and touched his face, palm against the scarred side, feeling heat and rough stubble and the silver lines pulsing beneath skin. The bond sang between them, and she made a choice. Maybe it should start mattering. She felt his shock ripple through the connection. Felt his hope, fragile and terrified. You have 9 days to teach me how to survive this, and then we'll decide together. Raziel took her to his safe house, which turned out to be the basement of an abandoned factory on the industrial edge of town, the kind of place urban explorers photographed for Instagram and drug dealers used for transactions. The stairs creaked under their weight, rust flaking off the railing, and Anna's nursing instincts cataloged every tetanus risk automatically. But when he pushed open the heavy metal door at the bottom, the space inside made her reassess everything. It was clean. Obsessively so. Concrete floor swept spotless, walls lined with shelves holding books so old their spines had cracked into illegibility. A camping cot in one corner, with military-precise corners on the thin blanket. A card table with a single chair. No personal effects. No photographs or mementos, or anything that suggested someone actually lived here, rather than just existed. The emptiness of it carved something hollow in her chest. It's not much. Raziel's voice held no apology, just statement of fact. He moved to the far wall where symbols were carved directly into concrete. Protection sigils, she realized, recognizing some from her frantic internet research last night. But it's warded. Nothing can track you here, celestial, infernal, or otherwise. Anna walked slowly through the space, footsteps echoing. A hot plate sat on the floor near an outlet, though she saw no food anywhere. "Do you eat?" "Sometimes, when I remember." He was watching her with that unnerving intensity, like he was cataloging her reactions. "The human part of me needs sustenance occasionally. The rest survives on other things." "Like what?" She turned to face him, and the bond hummed between them. Calmer here, in this protected space. Less frantic. Pain. Suffering. The residue of human emotion. His expression was carefully neutral. "The demon half feeds on negative energy. It's why I work around death. Hospitals, crime scenes, disaster sites. Places where fear and agony are concentrated." He paused. "The angel half feeds on faith and hope and light. The two balance each other. Mostly. The casual horror of it should have repulsed her. Instead, she thought about the ICU, about standing in rooms where families said goodbye, where hope died slowly on life support, where she'd learned to function in an atmosphere of concentrated grief. "That's why you were near me, near the hospital where I work." "No." The word came sharp. "I was near you because I was ordered to confirm your identity and wait for the right moment. The hospital was coincidence, or fate. I stopped believing in coincidence. Around my first century." He moved closer, and she watched the silver lines beneath his skin pulse brighter. "I've been watching you for 3 weeks, Anna. Learning your schedule, your routes, waiting for orders on when and how to end you." The confession should have terrified her, should have sent her running back up those rusted stairs and into daylight. But through the bond, she felt his shame, his self-loathing, the way he'd hated himself more with each day of surveillance, watching her exist in her small, determined way. What changed? Why save me instead? Raziel stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "I saw you at the hospital 4 days before the accident. 3 a.m, end of your shift. There was a kid in the ICU. Overdose, brain activity minimal. Family wanted to pull the plug but couldn't agree on timing." His voice went soft, almost reverent. "You stayed 2 hours past your shift. Unpaid. Just sitting with him so he wouldn't be. Alone when they disconnected the machines. Holding his hand. Talking to him like he could hear. Telling him it was okay to let go." She remembered. Jordan Hayes, 17 years old. Methamphetamine-induced seizure. His parents divorced and fighting over custody rights even as he lay dying between them. She'd stayed because no one else would, because dying alone felt like the worst cruelty she could imagine after watching her mother fade in hospice. He was a kid. "You cried." Raziel's amber. I caught the dim light from the single bulb overhead. "After he died. After the family left and you thought no one was watching. You went into the bathroom and cried like your heart was breaking. For a stranger. For a kid who'd made terrible choices and paid the ultimate price." His hand came up, hovering near her face but not touching. "I've killed 73 people. Most of them begged. Some of them fought. All of them died afraid. And I felt nothing but watching you grieve for someone you didn't even know. Watching you give a piece of yourself to ease someone else's passing." He swallowed hard. "That's when I knew I couldn't kill you. That's when I knew if I did, I'd lose the last shred of humanity I had left." The bond flared between them, and Anna felt it completely now. Not just his emotions, but his truth. He'd made a choice in that moment, watching her cry in a hospital bathroom at 3 a.m, had chosen her life over his orders, over his safety, over everything he'd been taught in 400 years of survival. "You're going to die for me." The realization hit like cold water. Whoever gave you those orders, when they find out you failed, they'll kill you. Probably. His voice was steady, accepting. Malphus doesn't tolerate disobedience, especially not from someone he considers property. Malphus. The name tasted like ash. "That's who ordered my death?" Raziel nodded once, sharp and controlled. "Archdemon. 3rd circle of hell. Specializes in destruction and corruption. He has a contract on your bloodline going back 4 generations. Your great-grandmother made a deal when she was young. Power in exchange for eventual payment. The payment comes due when sensitivity manifests strongly enough to be useful. His jaw clenched. You were supposed to be harvested, turned into a weapon. A sensitive bound to hell who could track and identify celestial threats. The basement felt colder suddenly. Anna wrapped her arms around herself, trying to process the enormity of it. My great-grandmother sold me before I was born. She sold all her female descendants. The contract is ironclad. When your sensitivity fully manifests, you become hell's property. Unless... He trailed off, conflict written across his features. Unless you mark me completely. She finished the thought. If I'm bonded to you, the contract is void. It's more complicated than that. If I mark you, you're protected from Malphus, but damned in other ways. The celestial faction will hunt you for being bonded to a Nephilim. You'll never be fully human again. You'll age slower, heal faster, sense things you can't unsee. And you'll be tied to me. Feel what I feel. Crave what I crave. His voice dropped dangerously low, including the violence, the hunger, the darkness. Anna stepped closer instead of away. The bond pulled taut between them, vibrating with potential. Show me. What? His control was slipping. She could feel it through the connection. Could feel the demon side rising, attracted by her proximity and her willingness. Show me what you are. Not the human parts you use to blend in. The real thing. The angel and demon. Her heart hammered, but her voice stayed steady. If you're asking me to bind my life to yours, I need to see what I'm accepting. Raziel stared at her for a long moment, and she watched the war happen in real time. The careful control he maintained cracking under pressure. Then, slowly, he pulled back. His hood. The silver lines beneath his skin blazed bright, no longer subtle but pronounced, tracing patterns like circuitry or divine script. His amber eye ignited, literally, with golden light that should have been impossible. The gray eye went completely black, pupil and iris and white all consumed by void, and behind him, visible in the dim basement light, shadows coalesced into something almost solid. Wings. Or the memory of wings. 6 of them, 3 on each side, except half were radiant with impossible light, and half were made of absolute darkness, eating the glow from their counterparts. He was beautiful, terrifying and alien and wrong, but beautiful in the way natural disasters were beautiful. Undeniable. Anna's breath caught, and through the bond she felt his vulnerability, his fear that she'd recoil, his certainty that she should. Instead, she reached out and touched his chest, right over his heart, right where the bond originated. His skin burned and froze simultaneously, and the wings flickered like disrupted holograms. I see you. Her voice barely qualified as a whisper. Angel and demon and the human soul trapped between them. I see all of it. She pressed her palm flat, feeling his heart race beneath her touch. And I'm not running. The control shattered. Raziel's hand came up to cover hers, pressing it harder against his chest, and the bond exploded between them. Not completing, not yet, but surging toward completion like a dam with cracks spiderwebbing through. Concrete. His other hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone, and his voice came out fractured. If we do this, if we complete the bond, I need you to understand. You won't just be mine. I'll be yours. Completely. Your emotions will affect me. Your pain will be my pain. Your death will destroy me. The golden eye blazed brighter. 400 years I've been alone. 400 years of not caring if I lived or died. If I mark you, that ends. You become the thing that matters. The thing I'd burn both heaven and hell to protect. Then we're even. Anna's other hand came up to his face, mirroring his grip, feeling the angular bone structure and impossible heat. Because you're already the thing keeping me tethered to life. Without you, I'd be dead. With you, I'm something else. Something new. She felt tears prick her eyes, surprising herself. I'm tired of being alone too, Raziel. Tired of going through motions. Tired of surviving instead of living. Maybe we're both damned. Maybe this is the worst choice either of us could make. But at least we'd be damned together. He kissed her then, desperate and gentle and completely overwhelming. His lips were fever hot, and the bond between them sang with recognition and completion and absolute rightness. The silver lines on his skin blazed white gold. The wings behind him flickered violently between light and shadow, and Anna felt the mark settle into her chest like a brand. Not painful, inevitable. A door closing, and another opening simultaneously. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard, foreheads pressed together, and she saw it in his eyes. The bond was complete. She was his. He was hers. And there was no going back from this. 9 days. His voice was wrecked. We have 9 days before your sensitivity fully manifests and every supernatural entity in this city knows what you are. Then we'd better make them count. Anna smiled despite everything, despite the danger and the impossibility, and the certain knowledge that she'd just tied her mortal life to an immortal being, who'd probably get her killed. Through the bond, she felt his love bloom like sunrise, fragile and new, and absolutely terrifying in its intensity. She felt her own feelings mirror back, surprised by how quickly fear had transmuted into something deeper. Anna woke on the camping cot with Raziel's jacket draped over her like a blanket, and the bond humming contentedly in her chest. She hadn't meant to fall asleep, but exhaustion had claimed her after the marking, dragging her under with surprising gentleness. Now, in the gray pre-dawn light filtering through the high basement windows, she felt different, sharper, like someone had adjusted the focus on her vision, and suddenly the world had edges it didn't have before. Raziel sat at the card table with his back to her, shirtless, and she watched the silver lines beneath his skin pulse in rhythm with her own heartbeat. The burn on his collarbone looked worse. Angelic fire, he'd called it. Divine punishment for using light he had no right to touch. For saving her. The wound wept golden fluid that looked disturbingly like melted metal, and even from across the room she could smell it. Ozone and burning copper. You're awake. He didn't turn around. Didn't need to. Through the bond, she felt his awareness of her like a physical touch. How do you feel? Like I can hear colors. The words came out strange but accurate. Everything was too vivid, too present. She sat up slowly, testing her body for changes. Is this normal? The sensory thing? Your sensitivity is accelerating. The marking sped up the process. He finally turned, and those mismatched eyes tracked over her with clinical assessment. By tomorrow, you'll start seeing auras. By day after, you'll hear things humans can't. Whispers in dead languages. Prayers. Screaming. His voice was carefully neutral. It gets easier to filter after a few days. Mostly. Anna stood, steadied, herself against the momentary vertigo, and walked to him. The burn on his collarbone was worse up close. The edges had spread, creeping toward his throat like grasping fingers. This is killing you. Slowly. He didn't deny it. Angelic fire burns until the target is consumed, or the angel who cast it releases the judgment. Since the angel in question is definitely not going to show mercy to an abomination, I'm just buying time. How much time? Her nurse training kicked in automatically. Assessing the wound's progression. The golden fluid was pooling in the hollow of his throat, and when she leaned closer, she could see his pulse jumping erratically beneath translucent skin. Weak, maybe 2 if I'm stubborn. He caught her hand before she could touch the wound. Don't! The fire recognizes angelic blood. You're marked to a Nephilim now. That makes you adjacent enough to burn. There has to be something. Some way to treat it. She was already running through options, medical and otherwise. Antibiotics wouldn't touch divine fire. Conventional wound care was useless. But there had to be something. There is. His grip on her hand tightened. Complete the angelic half of the marking. Right now you're bound to me through the demonic side. That's why the bond pulls toward darkness, toward hunger. If I marked you with the angelic half too, the balance would stabilize. The fire would recognize you as protected. But what? She could feel his reluctance through the bond. Heavy as stone. But using angelic power again will bring them down on us immediately. Every celestial entity within 50 miles will converge on this location. They'll execute me for repeated blasphemy and probably take you into custody as evidence. His thumb traced circles on her wrist, unconscious and gentle. The demonic marking keeps you hidden from hell. The angelic marking would expose us to heaven. We can't have both protections simultaneously. Anna stared at the burn, watched it pulse. In time with his heartbeat, and made a calculation. How long until my sensitivity fully manifests? 7 days, give or take. And when it does, I'll be visible anyway, to everyone. She met his eyes, amber and gray, and both filled with centuries of exhaustion. So we're choosing between you dying slowly from angelic fire, or both of us being hunted actively by heaven. Those are the options. There's a third option. His voice went flat. Dead. You could run. I could remove the demonic mark. Before it's fully set, it would hurt, and you'd be vulnerable to Malthus again. But you'd be human. Fully human. You could disappear, change your name, live quietly somewhere rural where your sensitivity never fully manifests. He released her hand like it hurt to maintain contact. You'd be free of me. The bond recoiled at the suggestion, and Anna felt her own rejection of the idea viscerally. Not because she was bound to him, but because the thought of him dying alone in this basement while she ran felt like a betrayal of everything human she had left. That's not an option. Anna, no. She cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. You said the mark makes me yours, and you mine. That goes both ways. I'm not leaving you to burn out like a candle because heaven thinks you're an abomination. Her voice hardened. Do the angelic marking. Let them come. At least we'll face it together. She watched the war happen behind his eyes. The angel that wanted to protect her by pushing her away. The demon that wanted to keep her regardless of cost. And underneath both, the human soul that was so tired of being alone. If I do this, if I complete the marking, you need to understand what you're accepting. The angelic half isn't gentle. It burns, purifies, demands absolute truth and submission to divine will. You'll feel it every time I use that power, every time the angel side takes control. And Anna, his voice cracked. The angel in me isn't kind, isn't merciful. It's the part that stood by and watched my mother burn. That killed without question for 3 centuries before the demon half taught it hesitation. I know. She did. Through the bond, she'd felt glimpses of his angelic nature, cold and absolute and terrifyingly righteous. But I also know the human part of you chose to save me, chose to disobey. That's the part I'm betting on, the part that's still capable of choice. Raziel closed his eyes, exhaled slowly, and when he opened them again, the amber eye was blazing. This will hurt. The demonic marking was seduction. The angelic marking is trial by fire. Your body will feel like it's burning from the inside out. But if you survive it, if you accept both halves, you'll be marked completely, protected fully. Mine in every way that matters to both heaven and hell. Do it. Anna's voice didn't shake. Through the bond, she felt his love and his terror and his desperate hope that she wouldn't hate him after. I trust you. He stood, and the wings manifested behind him. Not flickering this time, but solid. 3 radiant, 3 shadow, all of them spreading until they filled the small basement with impossible presence. His hand came to rest over her heart, palm flat, burning hot. Last chance to run. Not running. She put her hand over his, pressed it harder against her chest. Show me what it means to be yours. The angelic power hit like lightning. White gold light exploded from his palm, pouring into her chest, and Anna screamed. Not from pain alone, though pain was there, searing and absolute, but from the purity of it. Divine fire that scoured every shadow, every doubt, every human weakness and burned it away like kindling. She felt her cells igniting, felt her blood turn to liquid light, felt something in her DNA rewriting itself to accommodate the impossible. Through the bond, she felt Raziel's agony mirroring hers, felt him holding on by pure will, controlling the power enough to change her without destroying her. And, underneath the pain, she felt something else, the angel in him, ancient and merciless, examining her, judging her, finding her wanting but worthy nonetheless, finding her human but marked by choice, which was apparently rare enough to warrant preservation. The light burned hotter, and she saw visions not her own. Raziel as a child, watching his mother die and feeling nothing because the angel half wouldn't allow grief for a sinner. Raziel at 50, learning slowly, painfully to access the demon. Half that would let him feel. Raziel at 100, 200, 300. Learning that feeling meant suffering but choosing it anyway because the alternative was worse. The light began to fade. Anna collapsed against him, and he caught her, lowering them both to the concrete floor. His arms wrapped around her, solid and shaking. And through the bond, she felt his relief so profound it brought tears. I'm sorry. His voice was wrecked. I'm so sorry. I forgot how much it hurts. Forgot because it's been 400 years since anyone marked me. She couldn't speak yet. Her throat was raw from screaming. But she pressed her hand over his heart, felt the matching mark there burning in tandem with her own, and through the bond sent back everything she couldn't vocalize. Acceptance. Trust. Love that was too new to name but too powerful to deny. He held her tighter, face buried in her hair, and she felt his tears hot against her scalp. They're coming. His voice was hollow. They felt it. The moment I completed the marking. We have maybe an hour before the celestial faction arrives. Maybe less. Anna found her voice, rough and painful. Then we have an hour to prepare. He pulled back enough to look at her, and she saw it clearly now. The burn on his collarbone was healing. Slowly, but visibly. The golden fluid had stopped weeping, and the edges of the wound were closing. The angelic marking had recognized her as protected, and by extension, him as her protector. The fire had released its judgment. You saved my life. The wonder in his voice was childlike. By accepting the marking, you saved me. We saved each other. Anna touched his face, traced the silver lines that now pulsed with both light and shadow in perfect balance. That's what this is. That's what we are now. Two broken things that make something whole. Through the bond, she felt the celestial faction drawing closer, felt their cold, implacable purpose, felt Raziel's fear not for himself, but for her, and her own determination that whatever came through that door would have to go through both of them. The mark on her chest burned with dual fire, angelic and demonic, light and shadow perfectly balanced. She was no longer fully human, no longer wholly herself. But for the first time since her mother died, she felt completely, absolutely alive, and she would fight with everything she had to stay that way. They came at dawn. Anna felt them before she heard them, pressure building in her skull like an approaching thunderstorm. Through the bond, Raziel's awareness sharpened to a razor's edge, his body going still with predator alertness. 3 of them. His voice was low, controlled. Same ones from before. They're not here to talk. Anna stood on unsteady legs, the dual marks on her chest burning in warning. She could see them now, shapes descending through the ceiling like it was water instead of concrete. Celestial beings didn't bother with doors. They moved through matter with the casual disregard of entities that predated physical laws. The first one took form slowly, light coalescing into something vaguely humanoid, tall, androgynous, with eyes that held no iris or pupil, just radiant white that hurt to look at directly. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Raziel, you were warned. Using angelic power a second time constitutes willful blasphemy. The sentence is immediate execution. Get behind me. Raziel's hand shot out, pushing Anna back. His wings manifested fully, 6 appendages of light and shadow, spreading in defensive posture. The silver lines beneath his skin blazed so bright she could see the outline of his skeleton. She's marked, fully bonded, under Nephilim protection. You can't touch her. We're not here for the human. A second celestial formed, this one carrying something that looked like a sword made of condensed starlight. Though her marking to an abomination will require cleansing eventually. First, we collect you. The third celestial appeared behind them, cutting off the exit. Anna's new sensitivity kicked into overdrive, and she saw what humans weren't meant to see. These beings weren't beautiful, weren't benevolent. They were function incarnate, divine will made manifest. And they cared about humanity the way a surgeon cared about bacteria. Necessary to acknowledge, acceptable to eliminate. Through the bond, she felt Raziel's resigned acceptance. He'd known this was coming. Had known from the moment he saved her that he was signing his own execution order. She stepped out from behind him. The movement was instinctive, protective, and completely insane. All 3 celestials focused on her with that terrible white gaze, and the pressure in her skull increased until she thought her head might split. He saved my life. Twice. That's not blasphemy. That's mercy. Her voice came out stronger than she felt. Isn't mercy supposed to be a divine quality? Mercy is for the righteous. The first celestial tilted its head, the gesture almost curious. You are neither righteous nor fallen. You exist in gray space that should not be. Your great-grandmother made a contract with hell. Your bloodline belongs to darkness. The only mercy we offer is quick death instead of prolonged judgment. No. Raziel's voice cut through the basement like a blade. You want me? Fine. I'll go willingly. But she's under my protection. The marking is complete and witnessed. You know the laws as well as I do. Harm her, and you violate your own doctrine. Your protection means nothing when you're ash. The celestial with the starlight sword moved forward. You chose a human over divine order. That makes you fallen, and fallen angels burn. The attack came faster than Anna could track. The sword swept toward Raziel's throat, light trailing behind it that seared her retinas even through closed eyelids. But Raziel moved faster. The demon half surged forward, shadows erupting from his wings to meet the light, and the collision sent shockwaves through the basement. Concrete cracked. The single bulb overhead exploded. And through the bond, Anna felt his pain as the celestial fire bit into his shoulder, carving through flesh like it was paper. She didn't think, didn't plan, just moved. Her hand shot out toward the wounded shoulder, and something inside her ignited. The dual marks on her chest flared white-hot, angelic and demonic power mixing in ways that shouldn't be possible, and light poured. From her palm, not pure like the celestial's light, not corrupted like demonic fire. Something in between, something new. The light hit Raziel's wound and he gasped, the injury closing with visible speed. Faster than it should, faster than anything natural or supernatural should allow. All 3 celestials froze. The one with the sword stepped back, and for the first time, Anna saw something like uncertainty cross those blank faces. Impossible. Humans cannot channel dual essence. The combination is unstable, lethal. She's not fully human anymore. Raziel's voice held wonder and horror in equal measure. Through the bond, she felt his shock. The complete marking changed her. She's not Nephilim, but she's not human either. She's something else. The first celestial moved closer, examining her with that terrible white gaze, and Anna felt its attention like insects crawling over her skin. An abomination breeding abominations. This is why your kind is forbidden from marking humans. You create anomalies, disruptions in divine order. It turned back to Raziel. Your execution is no longer sufficient. She must be eliminated as well. The bloodline ends here. Over my dead body. Raziel's wings spread wider, shadows and light both intensifying. You want her, you go through me, and I promise I'll take at least 2 of you with me. That can be arranged. The sword-wielding celestial raised its weapon again, and the other 2 began to glow with building power. Anna felt the air, itself heating, molecules vibrating at frequencies that made her teeth ache. This was it. The moment where they both died, executed by beings that considered themselves righteous. She reached for Raziel's hand, laced her fingers through his, and through the bond sent everything she couldn't say aloud. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for showing me I could be more than my grief. Thank you for being worth dying for. His hand squeezed hers, and she felt his response. Thank you for seeing me as more than a monster. Thank you for choosing this. Thank you for being my first and last good thing. The Celestials attacked in unison. 3 sources of divine fire converging on one spot. Enough concentrated holy power to burn through reinforced concrete and reduce them both to component atoms. But before the light could reach them, something else happened. The protection sigils carved into the basement walls ignited, not with holy fire or demonic flame, but with something older, something that predated the division between heaven and hell. Raziel had carved them 400 years ago, when he first learned to blend his dual nature, and they recognized the same combination in Anna, recognized that she carried both essences in balance, and responded to protect their creator's chosen. The symbols flared brilliant gold-black, and a barrier erupted between them and the Celestials. The divine fire hit it and dispersed, scattering like water against stone. The Celestials recoiled, and the first one's voice held something close to anger. Ancient magic. Forbidden binding. You prepared for this confrontation. I prepared to protect what's mine. Raziel's voice was steady, despite the tremor Anna felt through the bond. These sigils are keyed to dual essence. Attack us, and they reflect the attack back at its source. You know what that means. You'll be executing yourselves on heaven's orders. The standoff stretched for seconds that felt like hours. Anna watched the Celestials calculate, watched divine logic war with divine purpose. They were built to follow orders, to execute judgment without question, but they were also built to preserve themselves, to continue serving. Destroying themselves to eliminate 2 abominations violated their core programming. Finally, the first Celestial spoke. This is not finished. The higher orders will hear of this violation. A solution will be found that does not require our termination. It began to fade, light dispersing like fog. You have bought time, not freedom. Remember that, Raziel. And you, its blank gaze fixed on Anna one last time. You are an impossibility that should not exist. That alone is sufficient reason for elimination. We will return with authorization to breach your protections. Pray we do not return quickly. The 3 Celestials vanished, taking their oppressive presence with them. The moment they were gone, Anna's legs gave out. Raziel caught her, lowering them both to the floor, and she felt his hands shaking against her back. You healed me. His voice was rough with shock. Mid-combat, without training, you channeled dual essence and healed me. Do you understand how impossible that is? Apparently, I'm an impossibility. She laughed, high and slightly unhinged. That seems to be the consensus. Impossible that I'm alive. Impossible that I'm marked. Impossible that I can use your power. The laughter turned into something closer to sobbing. I'm so tired of being impossible. I just want to exist without people trying to kill me for it. He held her tighter, face buried in her hair, and through the bond she felt his guilt, his certainty that he'd condemned her by saving her, his desperate wish that he could go back and make a different choice, even though they both knew he'd make the same choice again. I'm sorry. God, Anna, I'm so sorry. This is my fault, all of it. You should be living your normal human life, complaining about hospital shifts and student debt, not hiding in a basement waiting for angels to find a way to execute you. Stop. She pulled back enough to look at him, to see the amber and gray eyes swimming with tears he wouldn't let fall. You saved me. You gave me a choice. You showed me that the world is bigger and stranger and more terrifying than I imagined. But you also showed me I'm strong enough to face it. That's not something to apologize for. Her hand came up to his face, thumb tracing the silver lines that pulsed beneath his skin. We're in this together now. Whatever comes next, we face it together. That's what the bond means, right? Right. His voice cracked on the word. Through the bond, she felt his love surge like a tidal wave, overwhelming and absolute. Together. Even if it kills us both. Especially then. Anna smiled despite the terror still coursing through her veins. I'd rather die fighting beside you than live safely alone. I've been alone long enough to know it's worse than death. She pressed her forehead to his, feeling their breath mingle, feeling the dual marks on her chest burn in harmony with his. How much time do you think we have before they come back? Days. Maybe a week if we're lucky. His arms tightened around her. Higher celestial orders take time to authorize. They'll need to consult with archangels, present evidence, get permission to breach ancient protections. But they will come back, with more numbers, more power. And next time, the sigils might not be enough. Anna closed her eyes and did what she'd learned to do as a nurse in the ICU. She accepted the reality she couldn't change and focused on what she could control. Then we use the time we have. You teach me to control this power, to defend myself, to be something other than a liability you have to protect. She pulled back and met his eyes. Make me strong enough to stand beside you, not behind you. Training started immediately, and Anna learned within the first hour that channeling dual essence wasn't instinctive. It was agony. Raziel stood across from her in the basement, arms crossed, expression carefully neutral while she tried to summon even a flicker of the power that had erupted from her during the celestial attack. You're thinking too hard. His voice was patient, but through the bond, she felt his frustration mirroring hers. The power doesn't come from your mind. It comes from here. He touched his chest, right over the marks. From the space where angel and demon meet, where they stop fighting and just exist together. That's poetic, but completely unhelpful. Anna's hands trembled from the effort of trying to make something, anything happen. She'd been attempting to produce light for 3 hours, and all she had to show for it was a headache that felt like someone was driving nails through her temples. When the Celestials attacked, it just happened. I didn't think. I just did. Because you were terrified and desperate, and the bond was fully open between us. He moved closer. Close enough that she could feel heat radiating off his skin. That's the key. The power flows through our connection. When you're flooded with emotion, when the bond is completely unguarded, you can access what I can access. But that's dangerous. Uncontrolled. You need to learn to open the bond deliberately, take what you need, and close it again before you burn out. How? She looked up at him. And even exhausted and frustrated, she felt that pull. The hunger that existed in the bond, always present, always waiting. Not just his hunger, hers too now. The demon half of the marking whispering that there were easier ways to open the bond fully. Intimate ways. Ways that involved significantly less clothing and significantly more touching. Raziel's eyes darkened, the gray one going fully black for a moment. He felt it too. Felt her thoughts bleeding across the connection. That would work. His voice came out rough. Physical intimacy opens the bond completely. No barriers, no control. You'd have full access to everything I am. He stepped back deliberately, putting distance between them. But you'd also be vulnerable. Completely open works both ways. I'd feel everything you feel, know everything you think. And the demon half of me, he trailed off, jaw clenching, would want to claim me completely. Anna finished the thought. Through the bond, she felt his desire warring with his control. Felt the demon side pushing for dominance, wanting her in ways that were possessive and consuming. Is that why you keep pulling away? Because you're afraid you'll hurt me? I'm afraid I'll lose control and you'll see exactly what I am. The confession came out quiet, almost ashamed. The demon doesn't love gently, Anna. It devours, consumes, takes until there's nothing left. And you're already so small, so human despite the marking. I'm terrified that if I let myself want you the way the demon wants you, there won't be anything left of you when I'm done. She should be afraid, should step back and maintain the distance he was trying to create. Instead, she closed it, moved into his space, close enough to feel his breath hitch, close enough to see the silver lines beneath his skin pulse faster. Then let the angel balance it. That's what you are, right? Light and dark in equilibrium. Stop trying to protect me from half of yourself and trust that the whole of you is what I chose. Anna. Her name came out like a warning, but his hands came up to her waist, grip careful but desperate. Teach me. She put her hands on his chest, felt his heart racing beneath her palms. Open the bond completely. Show me how to access the power. I trust you, both halves, all of you. The control shattered. Raziel's mouth crashed against hers, and the bond between them exploded wide open. Anna gasped at the sudden influx of sensation, feeling his emotions with the same intensity as her own. His love, fierce and protective, and edged with 400 years of loneliness. His desire, the demon side roaring with possession, and the angel side demanding she submit to divine will. His fear that he was damning her, corrupting her, destroying the gentle human woman who'd cried in a bathroom over a stranger's death. And underneath it all, his absolute certainty that she was the only good thing in his immortal existence, and he'd burn both heaven and hell before he let anyone take her from him. She sent back her own truth through the open bond, her terror of being alone again, of going. Back to that gray existence where she moved through days without living them. Her desperate need to matter to someone, to be seen as more than just a nurse or a debt or a bloodline contract. Her choice, deliberate and conscious, to accept him completely. Monster and angel and broken human soul. Power surged between them, dual essence mixing where their bodies touched. And Anna felt it clearly now. The angelic light, cold and absolute and demanding purity. The demonic fire, hot and hungry and demanding surrender. And in the space where they met, where they crashed together, and somehow didn't destroy each other. Something new. Something that was theirs alone. She pulled back from the kiss, breathing hard, and looked at her hands. They were glowing. Not bright enough to light the room, but visible. Soft, gold-black radiance that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. I did it. Her voice was awed, disbelieving. I can see it. I can feel it. Because the bond is open. Raziel's voice was strained, his grip on her waist tightening. Everything I am is accessible to you right now. But Anna, you need to learn to close it. If you leave it this open for too long, you'll burn out. The human part of you can't sustain this level of power indefinitely. She tried to pull back, to close the connection, but it was like trying to cap a geyser mid-eruption. The power kept flowing, kept building, and her hands blazed brighter. Too bright. The gold-black light spread up her arms, and she felt her body temperature spiking. Felt her heartbeat accelerating past safe limits. Felt the edges of her consciousness starting to fray. Raziel, I can't. I don't know how to stop it. He moved fast, pulling her against his chest, one hand cradling the back of her head. Listen to my heartbeat. Match your breathing to mine. The bond flows both ways. If you can't close it yourself, let me close it for you. His voice dropped to a low rumble, almost hypnotic. Trust me. Let go. Let me pull it back. Anna pressed her ear against his chest, heard his heart beating slow and steady despite the chaos, and tried to match her breathing to his. Slowly, incrementally, she felt the power receding, felt the bond narrowing from that overwhelming openness to something more manageable. The light in her hands dimmed, then disappeared entirely. She sagged against him, suddenly exhausted, and felt his arms tighten around her. That was close. His voice held an edge of fear. Another 30 seconds and you would have burned through your nervous system. Dual essence isn't meant for human biology. Even marked, you have limits. How long can I sustain it? She stayed pressed against his chest, drawing comfort from his solidity. In a fight, how long before I burn out? Minutes. 5 if you're lucky. He pulled back enough to look at her, concern etched into his features. You're not built for prolonged combat, Anna. Your body wasn't designed to channel this kind of power. We need to be strategic. You can heal, you can defend, but you can't go into sustained battle, not without killing yourself in the process. The reality of it settled over her like cold water. She was marked, changed, carrying power that would make Celestials hesitate. But she was still fundamentally human, still breakable in ways Raziel wasn't. Then we need to make sure I never have to. She straightened, testing her legs for stability. When they come back, we can't fight them head on. We need a different strategy. We need to run. Raziel's voice was flat, resigned. The sigils will only hold once more, maybe twice if I'm lucky. After that, this location is compromised. We'll need to move, keep moving, stay ahead of both celestial and infernal factions until... He trailed off, and through the bond Anna felt his despair. Until what? Until they ran out of places to hide? Until exhaustion made them sloppy and they got caught? There was no endgame here, no winning scenario, just survival measured in days instead. Of years. No. Anna's voice came out stronger than she felt. We're not running. Not forever. There has to be another way. There isn't. He turned away from her, hands clenched into fists. I've been running for 400 years, Anna. From heaven, from hell, from what I am. Running is what I'm good at. It's the only reason I'm still alive. Then maybe it's time to stop running. She moved to stand in front of him, forced him to look at her. You said my great-grandmother made a contract. With Malphus. That my bloodline belongs to hell. What if we went to him directly? What if we tried to negotiate? You can't negotiate with archdemons. His voice held horror at the suggestion. They don't compromise. They don't show mercy. They take what they're owed, and if you try to bargain, they take more. But I'm marked to you now. The contract can't be enforced if I'm already bonded. She was thinking out loud, piecing together the supernatural law he'd mentioned. So what does Malphus actually want? It can't be just about killing me anymore. That ship sailed when you completed the marking. Raziel stared at her, and she watched understanding dawn in those mismatched eyes. He wants me. The words came slow, reluctant. I defied a direct order, failed to execute his contract, marked the target instead of eliminating her. Those are capital offenses in Hell's hierarchy. His voice went hollow. He wants me broken and bound, serving as an example of what happens when Nephilim... Disobey! You're just leverage now, a way to ensure I come willingly. Then we give him what he wants. Anna's heart was racing, but her voice stayed steady. We go to him. We offer you in exchange for breaking the contract on my bloodline. You get judged for your disobedience. I go free. No more running. No more hiding. Absolutely not. The refusal was immediate and vehement. You have no concept of what hell does to those who defy it. I'd be tortured for decades, centuries, stripped of autonomy and rebuilt as a weapon. And you think I'd accept that? You think I'd let you trade my eternity for your freedom? I think you've been alone for 400 years and you're terrified of going back to that. She cupped his face, forcing him to maintain eye contact. But, Raziel, I'm not offering to let you go alone. I'm offering to go with you. They summoned Malphus at midnight in an abandoned warehouse that reeked of rust and forgotten violence. Raziel had argued for 3 days. Straight, had tried every possible alternative. But Anna was immovable. We end this now, on our terms, together. So he'd drawn the summoning circle in his own blood, had carved sigils into concrete that made her bones ache just looking at them. And now they stood in the center waiting for an archdemon to answer their call. The air pressure changed first. Then the temperature plummeted, frost spreading across the walls in geometric patterns that hurt to observe directly. The circle ignited with black flames that produced no heat, only cold so profound Anna's breath crystallized before it left her lungs. And then he was there. Malphus didn't materialize gradually like the Celestials. He simply existed where he hadn't existed a moment before, as if reality had been edited, and he'd always been standing there. He was beautiful in the way poisonous things were beautiful. Tall and angular, with features that seemed to shift depending on the angle of observation. His eyes were red, not metaphorically, but literally, glowing like heated coals in a face too perfect to be human. He wore a suit that looked expensive and wrong, fabric that moved independently of air currents. When he smiled, his teeth were too white, too sharp, and Anna felt the bond in her chest recoil instinctively. Raziel. His voice was cultured, almost pleasant. When you disappeared 7 days ago after failing to complete your assignment, I wondered how long before you'd come crawling back. Though I admit, I didn't expect you to bring the contract holder directly to me. That's either very brave or very stupid. Neither. Raziel's voice was steady despite the tremor Anna felt through the bond. We're here to negotiate. Malphus laughed, and the sound echoed wrong in the warehouse. Negotiate. How delightfully human. Did your pet teach you that word? His red eyes fixed on Anna with predatory interest. The little nurse who was supposed to die quietly. Instead, she's marked to a Nephilim, carrying dual, essence she shouldn't be able to touch, and standing in a summoning circle facing an archdemon. Your great-grandmother would be proud, or horrified. Difficult to say which. My great-grandmother was an idiot who sold descendants she'd never meet. Anna's voice came out stronger than she felt. But her contract was for a sensitive bound to hell. I'm not bound to hell anymore. I'm bound to him. The contract is void. Contracts are never void, child. They merely require renegotiation. Malphus moved closer to the circle's edge, and Anna watched the black flames bend toward him like eager pets. Your bloodline owes me 4 generations of service. One way or another, that debt will be paid. If not by you, then by your children, your grandchildren. I'm patient. I can wait. What if we paid the debt now? Raziel's hand found Anna's, laced their fingers together. Differently than originally contracted, but paid in full. You want a sensitive bound to your service. She can't be that anymore. But I can offer something better. Malphus tilted his head, the gesture inhumanly precise. Better than a sensitive who can track celestial movements? I'm intrigued. Do tell. Me. The word dropped like a stone. 400 years I've been neutral, taking contracts from both sides, serving whoever paid. But you want exclusive service. A Nephilim bound to hell, unable to refuse orders, incapable of defiance. I'll give you that. 50 years of absolute obedience in exchange for breaking the bloodline contract. Anna goes free. Her descendants go free. The debt is settled. Through the bond, Anna felt his terror, felt his certainty that he was damning himself to hell for half a century of torture and servitude, felt his desperate hope that she'd be safe, that this sacrifice would mean something. She squeezed his hand harder and spoke before Malphus could respond. With conditions. Both Raziel and Malphus turned to stare at her. The archdemon's smile widened. The human has conditions. This should be entertaining. First condition, I go with him. Anna's voice didn't shake. Wherever you send him, whatever service you demand, I'm there. Non-negotiable. The marking makes us a bonded pair. Separating us weakens both. You want him at full strength, you keep us together. Anna, no. Raziel started, but she cut him off. Second condition, no torture, no reconditioning, no breaking him down and rebuilding him as a weapon. He serves willingly for 50 years, follows orders, completes contracts. But his mind stays his own. His soul stays intact. She met Malphus's burning gaze directly. You get a powerful servant who won't fight you at every turn. We get to stay ourselves. Everyone wins. Malphus studied her for a long moment, and Anna felt his attention like insects crawling over her skin. Then he laughed again, genuine amusement coloring the sound. You have spine, little nurse. I see why he chose you over self-preservation. He turned back to Raziel. Your pet. Makes interesting demands. But she's not wrong. A willing servant is more useful than a broken one. And having a sensitive, even a marked one, as part of the package. He tapped one elegant finger against his chin. There's potential here. Potential I hadn't considered. So you accept? Raziel's voice held desperate hope. I accept with modifications. Malphus's smile turned sharp. 50 years of service from you both, not just him. You wanted to go together, you served together. I have use. For a healer who can channel dual essence. And as for keeping you intact, he waved one hand dismissively. I'm not wasteful. You'll be given tasks appropriate to your abilities. Some will be distasteful. Some will test your morals. But you'll remain yourselves, as much as anyone can after 50 years in Hell's employment. Anna felt the weight of 50 years settle over her like a shroud. 50 years of serving an archdemon. 50 years of whatever tasks Hell deemed necessary. She'd be 76 when the contract ended, if she survived at all. But through the bond, she felt Raziel's absolute relief that she'd be alive, that they'd be together, that the alternative, her hunted and eventually executed, was avoided. We accept. The words came out steady. Final. Anna, you don't have to do this. Raziel's voice cracked. I can serve alone. You can live your life. 50 years is nothing to me, but it's everything to you, your entire human life. Don't throw it away for you. She turned to face him fully, ignoring Malphus's amused observation. I'm not throwing it away. I'm spending it on something that matters. Someone who matters. You saved me, Raziel. From death and from the half-life I was living before I met you. If 50 years serving Hell means 50 years with you, then that's the best deal I'm ever going to get. She watched tears spill down his face, the first time she'd seen him cry openly. Through the bond, his love crashed over her like a tsunami, overwhelming and absolute. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She smiled despite her own tears. But you're stuck with me anyway. That's what the marking means. Remember? Malphus cleared his throat delicately. How touching. Truly. But we have a contract to formalize. He extended one hand, and a scroll materialized from nothing. Ancient parchment covered in script that writhed and changed as Anna tried to read it. Standard terms. 50 years of service beginning immediately. Tasks assigned. At my discretion. Attempts to break contract result in immediate termination and eternal service. Sign in blood, both of you, and we can begin. Raziel took the scroll first, reading through with the careful attention of someone who'd signed infernal contracts before. It's legitimate. No hidden clauses, no trick language. If we sign this, we're bound for 50 years, but the bloodline contract breaks permanently. He looked at Anna one last time. Last chance to run. I'll understand. I'll still love you. And I'll understand. Not running. Anna took the scroll, pricked her finger on one of Raziel's claws, and signed her name in blood that looked too dark against the parchment. The moment the signature was complete, she felt something snap. A thread she'd never consciously felt, connecting her to her great-grandmother's mistake, severing cleanly. The bloodline contract was broken. She was free of Hell's claim. And in the same moment, she signed herself back into service voluntarily. Raziel signed beneath her name, his blood mixing with hers on the ancient parchment. The scroll ignited, black flames consuming it in seconds, and Anna felt the new contract settle into her chest like a brand. Not as deep as the marking bond, but present, binding. The warehouse walls shimmered, and suddenly they weren't in the abandoned building anymore. They were standing in a corridor of black marble, lit by flames that cast no shadows. Hell. They were in hell. Malphus appeared beside them. Smile satisfied. Welcome to your new employment. Your quarters are this way. You'll begin assignments tomorrow after you've acclimated. He paused, glanced back at them with something almost like respect. I've seen many bonds over millennia. Most break under pressure. Let's see if yours survives 50 years of service. I'm genuinely curious. He left them alone in the corridor, and Anna felt Raziel's arms wrap around her from behind. His face pressed into her hair, and through the bond she felt. Everything he couldn't articulate. Gratitude and guilt and love so fierce it hurt. 50 years. His voice was muffled. I'll make sure you survive all 50. I'll protect you from everything down here. I swear it. We'll protect each other. Anna turned in his arms, looked up at those mismatched eyes that had become home. That's what we do. That's what we are. Two broken things that made something whole. She touched his face, traced the silver lines that pulsed beneath his skin. 50 years. Of hell is better than 50 years without you. I meant that. I'll keep meaning it. They stood together in that dark corridor, bonded and bound, and facing 5 decades of service to an archdemon. But they were together. They were alive. And for the first time in 400 years, Raziel wasn't alone. For the first time in 6 months, Anna wasn't just surviving. They were living. It wasn't the happy ending either of them would have chosen, but it was theirs. Hard-won and blood-signed and absolutely real. And as they walked deeper into hell hand in hand, the bond between them burned bright with dual fire. Light and shadow. Angel and demon. Human and something more. 2 souls that chose each other despite every cosmic force that said they shouldn't. And that choice, that defiant, impossible choice, was worth whatever came next. Anna traded 50 years of her human life for something most people search for their entire existence and never find. A connection that transcends mortality. Itself. She chose love over safety, companionship over freedom, and a hard truth over a comfortable lie. In that dark corridor leading into hell, hand in hand with a being who was both monster and savior, she found what her mother's death had stolen from her: purpose. But here's the question that should haunt you long after this story ends. Would you have made the same choice? If someone offered you a bond so deep you'd feel their heartbeat as your own, but the price was everything you knew as normal, everything safe and human, would you sign your name in blood? Or would you choose the lonelier path, the one where you stay yourself, but stay alone? Sometimes the cruelest salvation is the one that saves your life, but costs you the person you used to be. Sometimes the deepest love is the one that damns you. Anna learned that surviving and living are not the same thing, that being safe and being alive are entirely different states of existence. She spent 6 months after her mother's death, just going through motions, a ghost in scrubs saving other people's lives while her own felt pointless. Raziel didn't just pull her from a wrecked car. He pulled her back into the world of the living, even if that world turned out to be far stranger and more dangerous than she ever imagined. The question isn't whether she made the right choice. The question is whether there was ever really a choice at all when the alternative was returning to that gray half-life of loneliness. If this story made you feel something, if it made you question what you'd sacrifice for connection, for love, for the chance to stop being alone, then share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a like if Anna's courage moved you. If Raziel's 400 years of isolation broke your heart. If their impossible choice felt somehow right despite everything. Subscribe to this channel for more stories that dig into the dark, complicated spaces where love and survival intersect. Because the best stories aren't the ones with easy answers. They're the ones that leave you wondering what you would have done, and whether you'd have been brave enough to choose damnation over loneliness. Thank you for listening. Thank you for feeling. And remember, sometimes the monsters are the ones who save us, and sometimes salvation looks nothing like we expected.